What's up, everyone? Dreamcast 720 here, back with another video. Today, we're going to be talking about Avengers Infinity War. Today, I'm joined by Pinky.
Hello.
So, overall, the Avengers Infinity War, I would give it a 7.5. I know a lot of people have been going off the rails about this movie, saying it was just the greatest thing ever. So I'm going to let you, Pinky, go ahead and tell me what you think you rate it. What do you rate the movie? And your thoughts on the movie.
Well, I actually rate the movie, I would say about, uh, saying a 7 out of 10. I mean, out of all the Marvel movies, I think it was a really good movie. I wouldn't say it was the greatest one. I think they held back, and I think they held back for a reason.
Well, it certainly had what I would call a very Lord of the Ring-esque type atmosphere, the big battles. You had some character development, not much. I just found Thanos himself to be a very lackluster villain. He he is, and I realize that, and people will say, well, he's not like he was in the comics, but he should have been more that way. I'm gonna kind of go into what I didn't like. I mean, spoilers if you haven't seen the movie, or heard about the movie. So I'm just gonna put that out there. In the comic books, if you read the Infinity Gauntlet, or even the remake of the Infinity Gauntlet, or I think it's the End of Infinity, or even Thanos' Quest, which a lot of this movie is based on, Thanos does everything in service to Mistress Death. And Thanos in this movie is very unappealing. He's very lackluster. He's not maniacal. He's missing that, and I think that's the biggest part, is he's missing that being maniacal, that it's just, I have a sole purpose to extinguish half of the universe. And it's, in a sense, almost a political message that, hey, we've got to wipe out half the universe so that the rest of the universe can live. And I don't like that they broke it down to something so simple, that that's all there is. It lacks any to me, it lacks a grandeur plan. It's like, yeah, I just want to wipe out half the universe so that the other half of the universe can live. It isn't a quest for power. It isn't a quest for wiping out half this universe to satiate Mistress Death. That Thanos has always had this, what's the word I'm looking for? This infatuation with. I mean, even if you read the Danny Cates stuff with the Thanos comic books, I mean, it's just everything is done for Mistress Death. And in this movie, it's just bland.
It's
I mean,
like, nope.
am I missing something? I mean, was it, or was it just, I mean, do you see it that way, or?
I, I do. It had, Thanos didn't have a motivation.
Right.
He had a story, but no motivation behind it. We spent all this back time to have backstory. Thanos actually has backstory, and they didn't give it to him. They presented a really cool, awesome villain, but at the same time, we kind of went poof and forgot his backstory.
Well, right. I mean, but not even only his backstory, but it's just sort of like, yeah, I want to get the Infinity Gems, wipe out half the universe, and I want to watch the sunset.
Right. And I think I got more out of Thanos in the small snippets that they've had of him the in the end credits really than I did in the movie.
You get more. I mean, it's for a $450 million movie. And I mean, overall, the movie was good. It was not great. And other reviews and people that have talked about it, all I kept hearing is how great this movie is and how great this movie is. And I realized that, and these are independent people. These aren't shills for Marvel or Disney who are out pushing the movie for you to go see it. I mean, they had enough of that, and people went and saw it. It made over $1.2 billion in 13 days. So, I mean, people went to see it, but when you really take a step back and look at it, you go, yeah, it was good. It was nice to see especially the whole Wakandan fight when they came. I mean, that the fighting scale, that grandeur was, to me, all I kept thinking was Lord of the Rings, and that big kind of grandeur scale, because that's where you kind of remember, to kind of remind you of that. But it was pretty awesome. Not a fan of Cap's shield. That's a whole nother story. That was just ridiculous. But as you said, he has no motivation. He has... It's hard to, or I should say, it's not hard to pick out the flaws in the movie. There was too much of the interpersonal story, in my opinion. Now, I like the Gamora Star-Lord thing because she's saying, look, I have this knowledge, and if he gets it, we're all screwed, and you're going to have to kill me. That I got. But when Thanos turns around and throws Gamora in the pit to get the Soul Stone, and then sheds a tear, oh, no. I was like, why is he crying?
He was crying before he threw her in there.
But I'm still like, why is he crying? That's ridiculous.
He wouldn't cry about Gamora.
No, he wouldn't cry about Gamora. I mean, even the way they sort of described him, or portrayed him, I should say, in the movie is everyone and everything is a means to an end. And the ultimate end is wiping out half the universe. That's the end game. Everyone and everything is a tool to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So to see him stand there and cry, and I'm going, no.
Well, I can understand that he has to destroy something that he made, something that he, allegedly loves and cared about.
Right, but remember, he tells Gamora that, it goes back to what, I mean, kind of what he told her. He goes, everyone and everything is a tool for the ultimate end. Everything. So to sit there and have feelings about it, because remember, Nebula, to me, that scene was completely useless. I'm sorry, that scene to me was completely useless. But I mean, I guess it was a contractual thing. remember when all this, he didn't shed a tear, couldn't care less. I mean, none of it. He's like, give me what I want or I'll kill her. I don't care.
Hmm.
So why on the flip side would you have that for Gamora? That's why I didn't buy that end of it.
Yeah, because they're hinging on the fact that Thanos, they they're trying to make that connection with Thanos and why, and to get the Soul Stone because you do have to sacrifice something. So he's basically proving to the stone, I do have a soul.
Right. I'm going to be very disappointed if Warlock does not make an appearance in the fourth movie. I mean, if you look at who survives in
Hmm.
this movie, the pretty much your main cast of Avengers. I mean, Captain America survives, Tony Stark survives. Um, these people, now that he already has the gauntlet,
Yeah.
these people are just not strong enough to. I mean, you see that one scene where they get the gauntlet halfway off his hands,
Right.
and you thought, okay, maybe that they kind of get it off his hands, or somebody would grab one of the gems, therefore it's still not I think it would have been better had Spider-Man or somebody was able to get one of the gems out of the gauntlet and just
Itself.
basically ran, and then basically so the gauntlet is not fully united. And what would have made sense in that, at least to me, is if it were the soul gem, because then you could really explain the coming of Adam Warlock out of the soul gem. It would have made sense. Even if in the fourth movie he would have gotten it back,
Hmm.
it would explain Adam Warlock, even though they did like you said, he's introduced in the second Guardians of the Galaxy movie, as him. I mean, you kind of can't really do this story without him.
Hmm.
Unless you're going to boil it down so generic that you're just going, wow, that was really good eye candy, but that story really sucked. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some very fantastic moments in this movie. When Thanos snaps his fingers and wipes out half the universe, and you see, I mean, and Tom Holland played that great. I mean, when he just grabs on to Tony for dear life. I mean, and
Please, I
just,
don't want to die.
right, please, I don't want to die. And then you see him vanish. And where any other, where first Tony's just like, what the hell, and then when he just fades to dust,
Right.
and you see that look on Tony's like, oh crap, what have I done? And I mean, and even when you see Doctor Strange turn to Thanos and go,
Hmm.
spare Tony's life, and I will give you the time
The
stone.
stone.
I will give you the time stone. And you see Tony's like, what? I mean, there were moments like that were you're just like, wow, okay, that really kind of grab you.
Yeah.
And where he says, I've seen 14 billion outcomes,
And we only win one.
and we only win one. And the interesting thing about that is he is the only one that knows how they win in that outcome. And he's
Hmm.
one of the ones to fade with half the universe.
Right. Which to me kind of didn't make any sense.
Well,
Because I don't remember Doctor Strange being one of the heroes Should I don't remember that.
No, not. I mean, if you're going by the Infinity Gauntlet, no, he was not. But I
That's
mean,
right.
in the original though, all of the parts that you saw played uh, by the Hulk were done. You know, where he crashes into Doctor Strange's Manhattan uh, complex there, his house
Right.
there, and everything. That was all done by the Surfer in the original books.
Yes.
And the fact that the ink isn't dry on the Fox deal yet, so nobody knows. I mean, there was widespread spread, if I can get the word out, speculation that he was going to make an appearance in this movie.
Mhm.
And there is still a possibility in the fourth one that he could make an appearance. Um, but you, like you said, without Warlock, though, you really, to me, have a very generic story. I mean, there were just some other things that you're just kind of shaking your head when Cap and them come back to the Avengers mansion or whatever you want to call it, and you have uh, War Machine talking to the U.S. government, and you know they walk in and they go, "What? You think that you just walk right in here and everything is forgotten?" And I'm going, "Let me see. You have a second alien invasion on your hands, the like of which you guys are not going to stop." And it was these people. You got Cap, Black Widow, the Falcon. I mean, that helped stop the first invasion. And really, you're going to get down into the petty Superhero Registration Act, really. At that particular moment. I mean, it would have been different had he just made the offhand comment, you know, we'll get back to our original concern when this is over, or something to that effect, like he did. But to start out, basically, oh, you think you walk in here and everything is forgiven?
Mhm.
And I'm like, what? I mean, I realize that most governments in the world are stupid. They're not quite that stupid. There's a time and a place, you know, as it was President Reagan that said, he goes, the words you never want to hear is, I'm from the federal government and we're here to help. So, you know, it's just like, I saw that and I'm going, okay. The other thing, though, is why did everybody have to show their face in this movie?
And that could have been just with them having, because you see Black Panther, his face is everywhere. You see his face. It was like, okay, we don't want them to be masked heroes anymore. They all know who. It was the whole, maybe they could be setting up for the Mutant Registration Act later on. Uh, that the X-Men were running with, and I did, in because that's something that Tony Stark was 100% about, that everybody needed to be registered. So maybe it's a foreshadow ahead to that.
Well, it would go with the Civil War. I mean, as
Mhm.
far as, unmasking the heroes and the
Yeah.
Superhero Registration Act. And
Mhm.
I understood that, but I think that even though Civil War, at least in the MCU, had never been resolved. I
Right.
mean, they said that Hawkeye took the plea deal, and that was because the guy that plays him,
Jeremy Renner.
thank you, Jeremy Renner, you know, contract dispute with Marvel, so they just basically kind of sidelined him in this one. I mean, but they've assured us he'll be back in the next one. But that he took a plea deal, that was kind of okay. That kind of writes him out here, what happened with him. But those heroes that did not agree with the Hero Registration Act, which would have been Cap. I mean, Black Widow never wore a mask. Falcon still had his suit. It just really kind of bothered me. I can understand Black Panther, especially in Wakanda, because, I mean, he would take the mask off.
Mm-hmm.
But outside Wakanda, I mean, because you even
Nobody
saw...
knew who he was.
Right, that mask was on.
Yeah.
And even when you had the big battle in Wakanda, and basically he calls forth the charge, you see him hit the button and the mask comes on.
Right.
But I'm like, why is Captain America, why is he not wearing his mask? And I realize when you see the big fight with him and Tony, but come on, you can't sit there in the span of time that happened that really we couldn't come up with another mask. I mean, seriously. That I'm like, okay. I don't know. It was just like all of a sudden, all the stars. We've all got to show our faces. I'm gonna grow a beard. And I'm like, and to me that was one of the funnier lines. Is the two times that Thor says you're trying to emulate me. The first time with Star-Lord when he gets that real deep voice, we're gonna blah blah blah. And the second time when he looks at Cap and he goes, with the beard, because you're trying to emulate me, it's like, and I'm going, yeah, that's what it looks like. Actually, the funnier thing is if you look at the Funko Pop of both Thor and Captain America, if you covered up the body and just looked at the heads, you couldn't tell them apart.
Right.
So that's what made me laugh more, because I saw the Funko Pops shortly after they came out. I did get the Captain America one to go with my Captain America set. But I saw him and Thor sitting right next to each other, and I grabbed the Thor one first by accident until I looked at the outfit. I'm like, wait, that ain't right. And then I picked them both up and was like, what in the hell? Just set the Thor back down. I was like, okay, and it's weird because it sounds like I'm just really ripping on this movie, and I mean, there are just parts that really stuck out to me that I'm like, this movie got all up in people's feelings, and I don't understand that. I mean, this movie got up in people's feelings, and I'm like, why?
Again, it's like for those who have read the Game of Thrones books, and then they watch the Game of Thrones series and they see the Red Wedding. It was so much more to see it visually, and that could be an impact. I mean, definitely seeing half of the superheroes that you've grown to just love just all of a sudden just vanish and disintegrate into nothingness as if they never existed in the first place. Impactful. That is an impact. That is definitely an impact.
And that is impactful. I think my only problem, and it's not a cynical response, it's more of a I guess thinking ahead kind of response, is that these heroes aren't going to stay dead. And it's not even so much from a story point of view, it's from a financial point of view. I mean, you're not going to kill Spider-Man. Sorry, he makes too much money, sells too much merchandise. They're not going to kill him. You start going down the list of people that vanish. Doctor Strange, I mean, he's got more movies to do. Now, in the context of the story, you could say, well, you don't know. And I think I would have been more invested emotionally if there had been some other bigger maniacal purpose to him wiping out half the universe, other than just a population control kind of thing. Had they gone with the he did this in servitude to Mistress Death to try to curry her favor or her love, or whatever it is he craves from her,
Mm-hmm.
I think I would have been more emotionally invested, because you get invested in his struggle.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing this for you, for your love, your attention, your whatever. To see these heroic heroes just vanish.
Right.
But just to go, no, half of the, as he tells you flat out, half of the universe must die so that the other half can flourish. And you're going, so there is no noble cause. You just wiped out half of these heroic heroes basically for nothing. And you're going to sit and watch the sunset. That's all you want to do. When you're done, I want to sit and watch the sunset. And I'm going,
Right.
what? Excuse me. The beginning, I love the attack on the Asgardian ship. I love all of that. I mean, even Loki, where it sounds like, yeah, I'm going to turn on you. I don't give a fuck. It's about survival of the fittest. As long as I survive, I don't give a damn about you people. I'm going to live another day. But it was nice to see that in the end, no, he was not going to portray Thor. That was awesome.
Yeah.
The where watching Thor get the Great Forge back up and running was very cool. There were parts of it I disagreed with about him actually surviving, but that's
Because I don't think he would have survived that. But
but
that forge wasn't originally in that, was it?
the Great Forge, no,
Yeah.
because I mean, you have to remember that I want to get that name right. Sunstorm is Beta Ray Bill's hammer.
Okay.
So no, he still had Mjolnir in the original stories.
That's what I thought.
Right, Sunstorm is Beta Ray Bill's, but I mean that's added, which is movie magic, and that's great, and you suspend a little disbelief that, yeah, okay, he survives, Thor is strong enough to do this, and here you go. I mean, that was great. I love when it finally came down to it, when Star-Lord's going to shoot Thanos after hesitating way too long, then he turns it into a bubble gun. But you noticed in that he didn't have, you notice every other time he had to curl his hand to make something happen. He had to curl the gauntlet to make it basically come. That time he didn't.
Exactly.
And you see with the time stone, so I mean, really, since the minute he had the time stone, every event in this movie is meaningless. I can go back 10 minutes. I can go back an hour. Prevent this from happening. Basically, I can go back before you came here and basically I mean, it's almost like sideways from the DC universe. He's sideways in the DC universe can basically open a rift from one place to another. In a sense, he does that, but he's basically making that rift through time, and here you go. So every event in this movie is essentially meaningless.
It could be.
So I'm dying to see how they try to answer this.
Hmm.
Um, it was just, it was an enjoyable popcorn movie that really lacked what I call a super villain. I mean, they always compare, they always say that one is a ripoff of the other, either that Thanos is a ripoff of Darkseid. Well, yeah, they always, because Darkseid came first, they always say that Thanos is a ripoff of Darkseid. And the monumental difference with Darkseid, everything is about fire and brimstone. You will basically bow before me or I will crumble, I will crumble everything. Thanos is not that kind of, he's not that kind of villain, but he's very
Right.
maniacal in how he does things. I can't overstate that word enough, maniacal. And they just did not play to any of that. I mean, it would have been interesting, like in the original Infinity Gauntlet, there's this, and Jim Starlin, fantastic job. But there's this one scene, there's this panel, or it's like a splash page actually, where Mephisto is talking to Thanos. When he gets the gauntlet, and all of a sudden, out of the rocks on this asteroid thing that they're on, just basically comes up the word God out of rock. That he is a god, and he almost has that, and he has that. How do I put it? He almost has that shit-eating grin, almost like that George Papard from the A-Team when he bit down on the cigar, got that smile, and said, "I love when a plan comes together."
Hmm.
Thanos has that same kind of grin, but you never really know what he's thinking about or what he's up to. He'll say some garbage to somebody like the Surfer or even Mephisto or whomever, but you never really know what he's up to. This was just too straightforward. So what were some of your favorite moments from the movie?
Um, I did favorite points in the movie was I did enjoy watching the relationship between Vision and Wanda and all of their moments together on the screen. That was pretty cool. And I'm not a romantic person, but it was kind of cool. I like the banner between uh, Doctor Strange and just about anybody. It was really, really good. Um, the big giant battle scenes, because I'm an action girl. I liked all the battle scenes. But what I didn't like was, of course, the glaring absence of all of these essential characters to the story and the essential stories that should have been for a focus on things that really did not matter.
Right.
I mean, Banner said it right, really the end of the world as we know it, or half of the universe is about to die at the snap of a finger, and you're going to say that you don't speak to Cap. Get over yourself. I just told you what was coming. Get over it. You have to call Steve.
Right.
I think, I mean, that was a big deal. So,
Well, that and and in the beginning of the movie where the Hulk gets his ass kicked, that fight should have been
yeah,
longer.
longer.
I
Yeah.
mean, where he
Because
gets
Hulk
his.
is one of the people that could have defeated Thanos
I I don't know, but that fight should have definitely
at the
been
time.
longer because as the Hulk gets more mad, he becomes stronger. So that fight should
Exactly.
have lasted longer. It shouldn't have. I mean, I almost when you watch that, I was almost watching. I was seeing the opposite. You remember when the Hulk takes Loki and slams him around and says "puny
Hmm.
god."
Right.
I was almost thinking that. I was almost expecting it. For Thanos to go puny Hulk.
Right.
And I'm going okay. And then you see, in some of the funnier movements with Banner in the Hulkbuster Iron Man armor,
Oh yeah.
and him wanting to come out and trying to get the Hulk to come out. And the Hulk's like, no, and you're like, what? I mean, not
And no,
like two or three times, and he's like, no.
I know that part was just like you guys gave the Hulk and David Banner kind of like this like impotent thing. What was that about? And I don't
Right,
understand that
because I
one.
mean,
Why were you? Why have you neutered the Hulk? Because that's exactly what they did.
well, and I was expecting, like you said, when they basically overwhelmed that Hulk armor, and I mean they're all over him. I was expecting the
Just
Hulk just to come busting out of that thing, and
yes,
then it didn't happen, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
right.
I was like, "Oh my God, come on, come on!" And I mean that was really cool. I mean the Scarlet Witch and Vision thing was okay. I have to admit, I kind of like when he like crushed his skull and took the gem. Kind of liked that. The Vision, at least in the movies, I've never cared for. I've never cared for the Vision in the movies. Um, Scarlet Witch, I like. I like that they've got her powers right in the movie. I
They
mean, I
do.
like that one where she comes in and she just starts wasting them. And I cannot think of her name, but the Wakandan battle mistress or whatever her name is.
You are so bad with
I'm
names.
terrible with names. I am.
You're so
But I
bad.
mean, basically, the woman that leads the Wakandan armies, and she's basically like, why has she been in the back all the
Okay.
time? Huh?
Okay. Okay. Denai Guriri.
Okay, yeah, I'm never going to get that out. So I'm just going to go,
Yes.
okay, and say,
Yeah.
but the line is, why has she been in the back the whole time? Why has she been out here in front?
Hmm.
She got that kind of power. And so, I mean, I did love what they did with that. Um, Tom Holland, there again, like you said, as your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, that wit,
Yeah.
the quip, he is perfect for the younger Spider-Man. I love how he makes fun of how everybody's old. He'll make a reference like, Empire Strikes Back, like
Yeah.
you
They're
people
beaming me up, Mister
yeah,
Mister Stark.
it's like you people should know this, like this
You're
was
old. Come
you're
on.
old, you
Why am
should
I educating you?
right.
Steve said it's from your generation. They're not from mine.
Right, and he makes all these pop culture references and movie references, and he's basically tell them how old they are. And I
That
mean,
was so good.
right, that was perfect. That's your friendly neighbor. I mean, that's very much that 1960s animated
Right.
friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And he's got it down to a science. I mean, whether it comes off, I mean, if it's natural for him or whatever, which I think it is. I mean, because Tom Holland is fairly young.
Hmm.
So, I mean, for him,
He's like 21.
right. So, I mean, yeah. So he's just like, yeah, you old people,
It's like,
You remember in
it's like,
Aliens and this happened and, you know,
and he's just standing there when they're like, "What?" He goes, "Oh my God, you're so old."
you're so old, right? I mean, he was perfect. Chris Evans in this one to me was kind of lackluster.
He was because it really this story was not about Cap.
Well, no,
So
it's right, but I mean, everybody has
their part to play, and they
That moment,
didn't.
and he
Yeah.
didn't. Yeah, and they didn't. I mean, I'm sorry, when in the Marvel universe, in the regular Marvel non-cosmic universe,
Mm-hmm.
when shit hits the fan, especially in a military operation, who's the guy out there in front? Cap. He's the guy. Why? He's got the experience. He's got, the strategy. He's got I mean, he's the guy. And it's like they didn't, at least to me, seem to take advantage of that. It's almost like they kind of passed it off to Black Panther in this one. Or at least it seemed that way to me. And I'm going, no, that's not right. I realize this is Wakanda, and these are his forces, and I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes down to the basic military strategy, Cap is your guy.
Right.
And like I said, Chris Evans in this one seemed just, I don't know, very lackluster to me. Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man did a fantastic job as usual.
I love the new Iron Man stuff. I even like Spider-Man's Iron Man suit.
The Iron Spider suit, yeah.
Yes, the Iron Man Spider suit, yeah.
That was pretty cool. I mean, it's almost kind of really hard to kind of fuck up, the Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man part, because, I mean, he's sort of at the center, because you've got him and Tom Holland in their moment, or just when he's going to fight Thanos, and it's going to be him and Doctor Strange. I mean, that whole thing, you really couldn't mess that up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Doctor Strange and Tony Stark, I mean, you really can't mess that up. They were done well. Like you said, the Scarlet Vision thing there again, like he said, is just not my thing. I mean, it was well acted. It was just, I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. Like you said, I was happy when he crushed his skull and took out the stone. I mean, that was just
yeah.
Black Panther was awesome. Even though you really don't see a whole lot of him. I mean, you see the one scene where they first get there. Even the Winter Soldier, Bucky, I mean, he gets a small part.
Yep.
But I had to say, I did love the little exchange between Rocket Raccoon and him. How much for the gun? Oh, it's not for sale. How much for the arm? It's not for sale. He goes, oh, we'll see. That was pretty good. I like that Rocket maintained that. Yeah, okay. Now, the only thing I really didn't care for, though, was when Rocket, Thor, and who else was that in there? It was Rocket, Thor. I can't remember who else was in the ship with him. That shouldn't have been Rocket. That should have been Star-Lord in there.
What? Oh, when they were going to
the Forge, the Great
Forge.
Yes. That should have been Star-Lord. That would have made that whole scene, all of that, would have added. I think it would have been a funnier scene. It would have been, it would have just. I think it would have been a better scene. Of course, there again, probably Rocket's got to have so much screen time. And I'm sure it was quite a juggle giving everybody their allotted screen time that they were supposed to have.
I mean, because that's a lot of egos.
Right.
22 different characters on one screen. 22.
And I don't, that is a lot of different egos, but in the same breath,
I don't think that's just egos. That's also representing each one of these characters that we have a relationship with. 22 of them that you have to give dedicated time to, their dedicated moment in the spotlight per se, and you have to stuff it in there with what we all came to see in the first place, which was Thanos.
Right. Well, that's because they're getting right. I mean, I don't think there was any ego there. They're all like, "Hey, we're
Hmm.
here to do a job." I mean, I'm going to get more or less my
We're gonna get paid no
15 minutes.
matter what.
We're each going to get about 15 minutes to have our moment in this
Hmm.
2.5 hour film. We're each going to have about 15 minutes to do our little part to kind of push the story forward, and then we're going to have the big group battles and all of that. But that was the thing. Really, when you get past those 10 or 15 minutes of everybody getting their moment, so to speak, the rest
Of
of it is very generic.
right.
It's the good guys versus the bad guys, and you pretty well, I mean, there are parts that you go, well, you don't really know if the good guys are going to win, but then you're sitting there thinking, okay, you already know they're doing a sequel, so some of them have to survive.
Yeah, so we already know that it has to be that they lose. They have to lose.
Right. But there again, I mean, and coming full circle again, is that
Hmm.
it lacks an overall goal. I mean, for the good guys, the goal is to survive.
Right, and they just didn't. They didn't survive, and I think that's why there is no goal here. We don't have a goal yet because it hasn't been given to us. We had, that loss. They had to take that L to the face.
Well, right, but but I mean, no, but I think it's the overall goal. I mean, I know that Thanos' overall goal is to wipe out half the universe, but it just seemed so lackluster.
You keep saying that, but they had to do it that way. I think. I
No, they
think that
didn't. I see. That's where I disagree. They didn't. He could have still wanted to wipe out half the universe, but give me something more than this. That we're wiping out half the universe so that the other half may prosper.
hmm
That's no. That's lackluster. There's nothing there. Like she said, what are you going to do when you do that? He goes, I'm going to be able to sit and watch the sunset. What?
Yeah, and you saw her face. She kind of was like, "Really, dude? Really?"
I mean,
So
this is it? Really? This is it? You just want to wipe out half the universe and watch the sunset. That's it.
And
There's
as you saw, she even gave even the on-screen character. She broke the fourth wall to really give that moment of seriously, really, dude, you're so full of shit right now. And that was that moment. That was the moment that that Thanos saying, "Yeah, I have to do this so that everybody can have peace, and then I'm gonna go watch the sunset." And the character kind of just stared at him in disbelief. Was them saying, "Do you believe him?" Because we don't believe this line, but we want to sell you this line because
yeah, but the problem is that not only did they sell you the line, they fulfilled the line
hmm
because that's what happened. Snap. There goes half the universe.
wish we and I think that that was the whole point of them is that they were telling people get emotional because this is going to happen. We're going to prepare you because you have to have this L to the face, this loss column has to be marked for everything else that we're going to send to place afterwards. So for that, I do respect that they did that and understand it because it's not going to end this way. Of
No,
course,
it's
it's not.
it's not going to end this way, but I think it's a really sucky way to end the first part of it. It's and I mean, and I keep saying lackluster, but that's what it is. It's a lackluster ending to the first half of this story.
I think they more wanted to focus on the fact that they have to lose to have the rest of the story.
Well, the loss part that I understand. I get the loss. I
Hmm.
mean, it's going to hit everybody when you turn and Cap sees, okay, yeah, the Winter Soldier is gone. Tony had that experience when he sat there, I mean, was holding more or less Spider-Man in his arm, and he just vanishes, turning to see Doctor Strange go, who basically gave him the stone to spare his life. I mean, I get that those moments that they're going to be like, holy shit. And I get that. That for the characters, there's the hook.
Mm-hmm.
For you, the audience, when you
But
see the end, there's not that hook. Meaning that you sit and you watch Thanos watch the sunset. There's nothing that grabs you at the end to say, holy shit. Almost like it's no different than almost watching a cliffhanger movie serial or TV show where there's that thing at the end that just you're like, holy shit, that makes you go, that then it makes you question a lot of things, like was that Adam Warlock, was that the Surfer, what happened there? There is none
right.
of that.
Right. And I think that and that's one of the things that kind of bugged me about the whole let's save the best for last, which was the end credit scenes. They relied too heavy on the end credits the end credit scenes because that's exactly what you do. You don't see how all of this pans out and how this might not be so bad until you see Nick Fury dissipate and you see Samuel Jackson's character dissipate Nick Fury, and
Right.
he's calling Marvel.
Right. He's calling Captain Marvel, and but you're still, even in that scene, as good as it was, there's still, like you said, there's not that hook that really makes you kind of question things. You know, there wasn't that
Easter egg type
not even an Easter egg thing. There wasn't that flash moment that you go, like you said, you know, that
of
somebody appeared out of the blue. Like you said, was that Adam Warlock? Was that the Surfer? Was that Galactus? Was that the Beyonder? You know, where something happens, you're like, holy crap, what the hell was that? And then you're left wondering for, I think the next part comes out next year. You're left wondering
yes.
for that year, what was that? Holy crap. I mean, even if you know, and you will get people that will do it, who will frame by frame by frame, trying to figure out what that is, you know, when the Blu-ray comes out. Trying to figure out what that, but just like, holy crap, what was that? Who was that?
Well, there really wasn't anything. Yeah, and you're right. There wasn't anything really to bring that together,
right,
to tie into the next movie, other than Nick Fury calling Captain Marvel. That was it.
Other than correct, and I think that, like you said, it really, really needed that. You know, Brie Larson doing the Captain Marvel movie. I am not a fan of the Carol Danvers Captain Marvel. I mean, I'll say that at the outset. And it's not even the fact that she's a woman. It's not the fact that they've written the character. I mean, I tried to read it. I mean, I've read all the different incarnations. Captain Marvel is you know, starting with Marvel back in the 60s or 70s. I mean, well, late 60s, early 70s. I mean, is one of my favorite characters, him and Adam Warlock. I mean, the Cosmic Marvel is my thing. And aside from Cap, which has been completely ruined by Mark Waid, but that's a whole other story too.
But I guess early.
What's that?
Sorry.
Oh,
I
no.
was like looking online, and then I guess that some early shots and snippets of Avengers 4 have been released, You see Stark is in full shield regalia,
Right.
and Loki is on set in the gag, the
Yes.
face gag. Um, and everybody's in their original costumes.
Right.
So there is a flashback. So we will see Cap in his original Cap, Cap gear. You'll
Well, and yeah,
see
and
the.
that's going to be, like you said, that's going to be one of the time stone elements. And I think that, but what I was saying about the Carol Danvers Captain Marvel is that they write her too butch. You know, that you're just kind of going, no. I mean, and the running joke, I mean, and if you're a Captain Marvel fan, the Carol Danvers Captain Marvel fan, and I mean, she's been relaunched 4 or 5 times now. But if you look at her progression more and more when you look at her once she's turning into a man. I mean, the running joke is it's not Carol Danvers, it's Carl Manvers.
Mhm.
But the way that the character is written, that you're just like, what?
It's a man trapped in a woman's body.
Right. It's well, and you could say, considering that how she gained the power of Captain Marvel. I mean, if anybody knows the history, but I mean, I just do not like the Carol Danvers Captain Marvel. Now I'm curious to see what Brie Larson does with her. I do
Because
like
Brie Larson is a good actress. She's very
right.
good.
I'm very curious to see what she does with her. I mean,
I think you're gonna be shocked.
I hope so.
I think I want you to be shocked because and I say this because I love you. You are my friend, but dude, I need you to like a movie. Like you find so many bad things.
No,
And
well,
it's
it's
like,
not.
you
Well,
know,
right.
like a
Well,
movie,
no,
damn it.
and I do. I look at movies and I'm going, oh my god. And now, and I don't deny it. I'm very picky. I mean, I am a person who enjoys old Hollywood. To me, the movies were better produced. I think they were made with more care. Newer movies. Now, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I did like the Infinity War movie. I mean, yeah, like you said, throughout all this, it sounds like I'm really trashing it, and I'm not. Not trying to, anyway. I mean, I did enjoy the movie. But there are certain nitpicks that I can't let go because I'm going, look, I've been reading this stuff for far too long.
This is true.
And I realized that, in the cinematic universe, you can't do everything. It's just going to cost too much. It can't be done. The technology's not there. For a lot of it, it is. But, I mean, like I said, when you're trying to cram 22 people, give them their 15 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever it is, and then you're talking about CGI and, people doing things like Adam Warlock, which they could do because look what they did with Doctor Strange. So obviously they could do it. The Silver Surfer would be all CGI, but there again, look what they did with the Fantastic Four movie, so therefore it could be done.
Right.
That aside, and the ink dry and who owns what and all of that. Aside from that, there are elements, if you're going to go out and push this particular story, you don't have to have the Silver Surfer, and I understand that. Adam Warlock not being in this story whatsoever.
At least not yet, because
But I mean,
it's a trilogy, so they can't put all of their eggs into one basket.
Well, no, but I mean, this is supposed to be a two picture deal.
3.
Oh, they spread it into a trilogy.
It's a trilogy, and I think that's a lot of why that is their big disconnect for you, especially because this is 3 movies that they're going to stretch this out over to, and that's why I say, okay, yeah, I'm fine with where we're leaving it at, because now you guys are going to do 3 movies.
But see, and I'm okay, but that I don't want to say infuriates me more, but that kind of disgusts me a little more, because if you're going to do a trilogy, you left me with no hook. I mean, other than half the universe is dead and I want to see what happens, you left me no hook at the end other than him looking at, you know, him watching the sunset and Nick Fury basically dialing Captain
Marvel.
Marvel.
Yeah.
But that's not a hook. I want something to upset that sunset that just kind of he didn't expect. That's the hook that makes you wonder that, holy crap, what was that? Like I was saying before, what was that? Who was that? Why did that happen? Who threw him off his sunset? That kind of thing hooks you and really kind of makes you wonder. It kind of gives you something to look forward to go, holy crap, what was that? You can sit there and make the argument that, yeah, you can look forward to how the remaining heroes are going to try to right things, or at least to an extent. And then, but like you said, if you're going all the way into a trilogy now, you're going to either, you know, like you said, you're going to be jumping back, you're going to be jumping forward, you're going to be jumping sideways.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's no, it's not a hook. You just know something's going to happen. There's no, you don't have the surprise, the wonder, the almost that Empire Strikes Back, no, I am your father moment.
Well, you really didn't have that in, in some of these movies that, and some people are, probably don't know that there is an Avengers 4, they wait to be surprised, but, and stuff like that. But I did take a peek at the cast. Most of everybody is coming back. I see, Tony Stark, Thor, Bruce Banner and the Hulk, Captain America, Black Widow, Doctor Strange, War Machine, Spider-Man, Black Panther, Vision, Scarlet Witch, Falcon, Bucky, Loki, Mantis, Nebula, Drax, Gamora.
Well, right. I think they're like you said, they're all going to come back for at least the middle one. I mean, there's still speculation that Chris Evans wants out as Cap. So, I mean, that could still happen. And during the course of this trilogy that, he could actually die. And, I mean, they could kind of do it like they did 4 years ago in the comics, where he dies. You could have either Bucky come in and basically take his place, or you could have the Falcon come in and take his place. Just depends on what Marvel wants to do, if Chris Evans really wants out or not. But I mean, for these trilogies of movies, nobody's going anywhere. I'm sure that they were all locked in, saying, the directors knew the direction of these films. You're all locked into a contract, but now come afterwards. But I mean, are they doing these? So they got one this year. Are they doing one next year and one in 2020?
Yeah, as far as what I'm seeing is that Avengers 4 is set from May of 2019. And that it's the direct sequel to Infinity War. So we're basically going to pick up right where we left off.
Right.
That's the second movie. And they shot all of this all back to back to back. So they don't want to. Yeah, no, they shot it straight through. They said it was announced back in 2014 they were going to do a 2-part sequel to Ultron titled Infinity Wars Part 1 and Part 2. But when I went to look at the original Avengers film series, they're saying that Infinity War is going to be 3 parts.
Okay. Well, like I said, that part is new to me, because they said that it was going to be done in 2 parts. I know that when the first part finished up, they said originally they were going to do it back to back, but they were running into too many problems, so they were They had filmed some of it already, but when the first one finished, they immediately went into filming the rest of the second
So
one.
yeah.
And now I hadn't heard anything about him breaking it out into a trilogy, because doing one that would kind of disrupt the flow of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in the fact that, this is phase 4.
No, it's not. It is not phase 4.
This is
We
phase
are,
3.
yeah, we're still in phase 3, and
Okay.
they are refusing to announce phase 4 until phase 3 is complete, and so yeah, I'm seeing that there's Infinity ah that must have been an old article, because now it's saying, oh, it's now back to 2. That this was
Right.
part 1 and that they were going to have a second one, but or I guess originally the Infinity War was in 3 parts. So
Well, okay.
there's 3 acts to the Infinity War saga.
Okay. Well, okay. The Infinity War, actually, initially, if you go now, I had always heard it was going to be done in 2 parts. If you go back by the comic book, it was actually done in 6. But I mean, there's not enough material to do. I mean, you couldn't do 1 issue as a movie. I mean, that just, so. But that aside, so what they'll do is, yeah, they'll do 1 this year. You'll get 1 next year. That'll end out phase 3. They'll start phase 4. And which is interesting, because that makes the Ant-Man and the Wasp movie and the Captain Marvel movie part of phase 3,
Yes.
which
And
is
so is Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 is supposed to be the very last one, and it closes out part
well, but that would make sense, because by the time you get to next year, you're going to have Captain Marvel in the movie.
right. And
So
they're
that's what.
basically saying that phase 4 titles will not be released until after Avengers 4. But there's 1, 2, 3 for 2020, 3 for 2021, and 3 for 2022.
Well, and I think the only reason why they're not announcing any of the phase 4 is they're waiting for the Fox deal to finish, because they want to, and I'm sure in the phase 4, in one of the first 3 movies, is going to be a Fantastic Four movie. They have to relaunch the Fantastic Four back
Well,
into the Marvel Universe. They have to.
my my thing is like, are they gonna bring out Deadpool? Because Deadpool was also a thorn in the side of Thanos, because Lady Death was actually infatuated with Deadpool, and Thanos was like, er.
But I don't think they're going to play that angle. I mean,
I don't think. Yeah, I think they're not. I think they're just gonna shun that.
right.
Um, I know with Fox, they're coming up with a bunch of X-Men movies, because I guess 20th Century Fox owns Deadpool, and Deadpool comes out like next week, or yeah,
Right.
June the 1st.
Well,
Um,
yeah, that's,
or
yeah,
no, or it is out, or
is,
it
I think
to
it comes
Friday.
out Friday. Yeah.
Friday.
But I
They
mean,
are, they've announced Dark Phoenix, which is
right.
going to be February of 2019. I guess Gambit is back on the schedule, even though they took it off the schedule. So the New Mutants comes out in August of 2019, and they're also saying that, um, in which is November of 2019, March of 2020, June 2020, October 2020, and March of 2021.
But all of that is, aside from Deadpool, all of that is contingent on the ink drying on the Disney Fox deal.
Hmm.
If that happens, then there would be a lot of changes. I mean, probably the stuff slated for
Hmm.
2019 will probably go ahead. Everything after that, probably not. I mean, it
Right.
depends on what's in the deal. But like I said, if everything works out,
Mhm.
Like I said, and the way that the Marvel universe, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, has been going on, you have one of the key groups you have to introduce back into the Marvel universe is the Fantastic Four.
Right.
I mean, you cannot sidestep that because a lot of these major events, you need one of the most brilliant men on the planet, Reed Richards.
Hmm.
So, I mean, he's absolutely essential. Now, that's not to say that he couldn't be in the second movie. That's not to say, with the deal with Fox, they're like, yeah, go ahead. I don't know. I mean, you
Right.
never really know how that all works out in the end. Um, but I think Phase 4, like I said, if the Fox deal finally gets done, I think one of the first ones that will be seen is the Fantastic Four. Um, you'll see New Mutants. I think that'll branch out into X-Force.
Oh wow, really? They're gonna do a Suicide Squad 2? Even
Yes,
though nobody liked. I loved Suicide Squad. A lot of people did not like it.
I found it to
Um,
be okay. I just found it to be okay.
yeah, and I guess they're gonna do a Joker and Harley Quinn movie now, a Joker origin story. I'm on Den of Geek, by the way.
Right. Well, but I mean, that's, you know, the DC universe is a whole nother story, and they've got a whole barrel of problems of their own.
And
Uh,
then Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Spider-Man, apparently, they think, even though they had said, no, we don't know what y'all talking about.
right. I mean, it's it remains to be seen. But I mean, as far as, like I said, the Infinity War goes, I mean, that was, I mean, pretty much my thoughts on it. It just, to me, it was a good movie. It needed the hook
It
at
was a
the
good
end.
movie. I liked it.
It needed the hook at the
It
end.
needed a hook for you. I was already gonna watch the next one anyway.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna watch the next one. I mean, I have to give. That's one thing about Disney. I have to give is that when it comes to the Marvel movies, for the most part, Marvel does them well. They pay attention to the fans. The fans are going to get everything they want, but I mean, they pay attention to them. Unlike the Star Wars franchise, where they tell you to go fuck yourself and we're going to do it our way.
Right, and I don't even think DC pays attention to their own fans, and I don't like any
No,
DC, and I have watched them, and I'm like, what is this?
well, and yeah, and DC does the same thing, and DC is doubled down on the director run creator story. They don't have to, they don't have to interconnect in any way. They don't have to, which is really kind of dumb. They don't coexist in the same universe.
No,
I mean, they
but
that's a page from Marvel. They should really learn, at least in their cinematic universe.
they should. But I want to talk to you about the big giant battle scene, and it's only because I've studied film in one class, and
Right,
it's like when somebody sets a precedence, people try to copy it. Alfred Hitchcock created a way of making movies, and movies after Hitchcock, people follow that formula.
right.
Like there's elements of Psycho that is in every single movie,
Horror movie, right,
really, or movies, not just for Hitchcock but for other people included, and people threw a throwback to it. So that big giant battle scene, I think, well, we've had big giant battle scenes before in other movies and big giant franchises. This is a 22 superhero main leads character and arcs coming together into one. We're going to have this big giant battle scene quite a bit, so I
right.
wouldn't be shocked or surprised if we then continue to see that happening. especially with the Avengers and all the heroes and people who's going to tie in together. I do want to see, and it sucks because they killed Wolverine, but Wolverine was an Avenger,
Right.
and we're never going to see that, and that's kind of sucks.
Well, but I mean, in that vein, though, and like I was saying earlier, is that seeing that scene, you have that moment. I mean, when you see that battle scene, okay, there are many parallels you can draw. It could be the chariot race from Ben-Hur, where you just see the massive. That's not a battle scene, but you see just the massive number of people.
Yes.
But I mean, it hasn't really been until the new millennium, pretty much, that you saw
A
battles
throwback to that,
on an epic scale. I mean,
I
that's
would
just on
say.
an epic scale that you're just like, oh my god. And that's your original Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Hmm.
That when you see those big epic that, and you're just like, oh my god. Now there were some older films that did it, but
But
again,
Marvel,
but Marvel what?
but I hate to disagree with you, but I am disagreeing for that. I think that was the whole. I think that's the hook for me. That was the hook for me to keep actually watching this movie, was to see the big end game scene in leading up to the snap. That right there did make
Is what kept you
it
interested in the
for the
film.
movie for me. And the first time I didn't, yeah, I think that alone is that the promise that there's going to be another one where all these superheroes, all these people connected by the Avengers are going to meet up into one film eventually. That Tony Stark, Tony Stark, Captain America, Thor, all of these people touching one another as they did in the comics. To me, that was the big selling point, is that they were able to successfully do that. May have cheapened because they were in the trailer to see that it.
Just to see that in person really kind of hooked it for you, that kept you interested in the film. I mean, I can understand that. I mean, it was a sight to see. I mean, it's not like you see
Yes.
that every day, and you see all of them going on, and the end scene where they're all just kind of standing there like, oh my god. No. I mean, and everybody has their moment in the film that they're just like, wow. And I think I had a different kind of wow, even though I still enjoyed the film. But I mean, and everybody has their own particular taste. But I think that's going to wrap it up. I think we're having some audio problems anyway. But let us know what you think about Avengers Infinity War down in the comments. We'd like to hear, what were your pros and cons of the film? What kind of film rating would you give it, and why? And we will catch you guys on the next video. Thanks for tuning in.